This is my Insta360 Go 2 and this is a charging case. I have carried the charging case, tiny little camera with me every day, everywhere I go. So you can see I got scratch a lot of surface and I've captured a lot of amazing content for you guys. In this video, we're gonna talk about the time shift versus the time lapse. Today, we're gonna dive really deep inside the time shift and the time lapse. My name is Guo. My YouTube channel is dedicated to 360 photography, video, accessory, and some cutting-edge technology. Let's try to be simple. For a tiny little camera like the Insta360 Go 2, there are only 28 gigabytes available storage for us to capture our content. And you know, for the Insta360 camera series, export in the hyperlapse style is always a killer feature with a perfect Flowstate Stabilization. Time shift works really well in action scenario or capture in moving situation. Every time you start to capture a time shift, camera will automatically save the footage with 6x acceleration, 1/6 the file size compared with shooting the normal video mode. And you can also set a lot of parameters inside the time shift shooting. Tap on the right button, cycling through different shooting modes until I have found this time shift feature. It's just like a small little guy running with a shadow in behind. And you can add even more settings. Now you can see I have captured in linear mode, 16:9, 1440p and 30 fps. If you long press the record button, you can go inside the settings menu of the time shift feature. Single tap on the right button can cycle through different settings. In time shift 16:9, you can also capture in 9:16 in vertical mode. 1440p you have more options, and for the FPS you are 30 fps. I prefer to capture in linear mode because the capture in linear, the time shift we have the best possible result, just like a normal camera. But you should know, we still have a lot more options like ultra wide, action view. It's like the super view in GoPro mode, and the linear and narrow. Narrow has an even narrower field of view. But you should remember, bear in mind, you can also reselect each of the field of view options back in the Insta360 app. You can have a standard, log mode, or vivid. Sometimes I prefer vivid. For the most of my shooting scenario, I prefer vivid because I want a shorter workflow. And click on done, go to the capture mode and tap on the button. Now you are going to capture in time shift. You can also select the settings directly on the Insta360 app. In the video, have different mode, time shift, time lapse, HDR, pro video. The time shift has only one resolution and frame rate, ratio. Here is a field of view and color mode. So it's exactly the same as you have the options on the remote controller. Actually, you can set all of the settings directly with your remote controller. There are a lot of possibilities to capture in time shift. Everything was done almost fully automatic. And the camera capture the video footage once you have export and find the footage in the Insta360 app. The app will automatically analyze the footage and add even more accelerations to the footage. And this is an example of the time shift directly captured with my Go 2 camera. And the raw footage was captured at 6 times faster. The app will automatically add 2 more x speed up. And you can see you can just directly export with auto settings, set auto, and remember always turn on Flowstate Stabilization, turn on horizon lock, and direct export with a single tap of button on this one. So actually capturing time shift is a lot of fun, especially you are moving around the street, you are walking, you are running, everywhere you go, you're gonna capture hyperlapse style with the perfect stabilization. That is the magic of the time shift. If you guys are quite familiar with the GoPro action cameras like the 7, 8, or 9, there is a killer feature called TimeWarp. So TimeWarp works literally the same as Insta360 Go 2 time shift. The time lapse was designed to use a static camera orientation. Literally can snap on your pole and put it on a tripod and anything else you want. And this camera gonna capture a video footage with more settings available in the remote control or in the Insta360 app. Cycling through the options until you are set on time lapse. And for the basic information of the time lapse, now I'm capturing white field of view 16:9, interval settings to half a second, the resolution is 1440p. Long press the record button. Again, we can enter in the settings menu. You can also change in the landscape or the portrait mode. 9:16, 16:9. There are only one options, 1440p. I suggest to capture in 1440p because the 1440p has a very good imaging quality. And the 30 fps, yeah, only one options. And there are ultra wide, action, linear, narrow. And the interval settings, we have the smallest settings is half a second. Go all the way up to 1 second, 2 seconds, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 30 seconds, and 16 seconds, and even 2 minutes. It depends on you. It depends you are capturing moving clouds or you want to capture in the busy street. The color mode, vivid, standard, log mode, the same with the time shift. Click on done and press the record button. You are good to go. On the Insta360 app, you can always enter the time lapse and have all options and control each of the settings with your app with a live preview. You can see the resolution, the frame rate, the ratio, the FOV, interval duration, color mode. Yeah, that is all the settings are exactly the same on the remote controller. For example, in the time lapse function, the smallest interval time is 0.5 seconds. Just looks like a 15x acceleration in a normal footage without any motion blur. So to capture in time lapse, you can capture a wide range of from sunrise to sunset and save a lot of space in your internal storage. Here are some bonus tips and tricks for you to capture amazing time-lapse footage. Bottom right. And with the time-lapse, you can also enable the Flowstate Stablization. This is another killer feature. So number 2, the exporter criteria in the time-lapse video now is locked on the first frame, and it will constantly capture from start to finish. And Insta360 developer is working on something great. They're gonna add adaptive exposure correction to a time-lapse video on each of the frames so that it can capture from sunrise, sunset across a wide range of light conditions. On Go2, currently the exporter is locked on the first frame, but coming next in the future with a new firmware upgrade, the export criteria is gonna be set to adaptive so that it will boost the feature of the time-lapse in the video by a big step. The number 3 tips about the time-lapse on the Go2 is if the export time exceeds the interval shooting. The export time is gonna be set on the interval time. For example, if you have an interval shooting of 5 seconds and capture in super low light condition. So the maximum export time is going to be 5 seconds, no more than 5 seconds, because the camera gonna capture another frame after another 5 seconds. So you should consider the interval time if you are shooting in low light situation. For the rest of the capture in daylight or something like sunrise, sunset, the Go2 camera will automatically decide the final export time for you. You should never forget, this tiny little Go2 camera could even capture in Starlapse. I'm gonna share with you more detail in my next video, talk specific on the Starlapse capability of this tiny little camera. You can see that you can enter the Starlapse in the photo mode and capture the Starlapse with your app. For the Starlapse, this is also a very spectacular time-lapse mode that is only accessible on Insta360 app. If you want to generate a time shift or time-lapse style, you don't have to capture in time shift or time-lapse. You can literally just capture in Pro Video or in a normal video mode by add some speed up in the post-processing like the 8x or 16s, and you can add even more dramatic motion blur to your hyperlapse video. In the normal video or Pro Video, capture in 30 frames per second and squeeze it up with frame blending and acceleration and motion blur. You're gonna get the very best possible cinematic motion blur in the final footage. But that's going to take a lot of space for Insta360 Go too. To accelerate your workflow in post-process on the Insta360 app, here you can see on a local or camera, you can tap the button on the top right. You can see and multi-select different footage. You can see here I have multiple time shift footage, And yeah, here you can see I have select 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, 8, and click on share export. You can batch export all of the footage one by one with batch processing settings. You can set the maximum resolution 4040, and you have one more option, the 1920 1080p. And for the bit rate, you have maximum of 125 megabit per second. And for the frame rate, you can set to origin. And the color plus turn off, remove the gain. If you have captured something in low light, you can turn it on or turn it off. And click on save. And after a little while, keep the app running in the foreground, and it will automatically batch exporting and generate amazing footage for you one by one automatically. By that moment, you can grab a coffee or enjoy the time with your kids, go back, and now you will find the app is ready for you with numerous amazing footages directly batch processed by the Insta360 app. Okay, time to wrap up. For the Timeshift Timelapse, I think you already learned a lot in this video. You should know that the differences in between the Timeshift and Timelapse. Normally speaking, you can use Timeshift in a moving scenario and capture in Timelapse if you are guaranteed the camera is stationary. And you can also enable Starlapse, and also you can generate a hyperlapse style with the best motion blur effect by capture in normal video mode. And if you found this video helpful, please don't forget to sum up, subscribe, and hit notification bell. In the future, I'm going to share with you more about the Starlapse and even more amazing technology behind the Insta360 Go 2. So talk to you soon. Until next time, bye.